Very well, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling the meeting to order. In order to make that formal, I'm going to call roll to verify that we do in fact have a quorum at today's beer board meeting. As I call your name, if you just answer in the affirmative. Mr. Jarman, Mr. Bellamy, Mr. Conway.
Here.
Mr. Perlin.
Here.
Ms. Spalding.
Here.
Ms. Fox.
Here.
Very well, including myself. We have 5 in attendance today. Therefore, we do have a quorum. Mr. Garth, I'm going to turn it over to you for just a moment to give us the legal reasoning behind us continuing to hold the meeting, and particularly today's meeting in this virtual forum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This meeting is permitted to be held in an electronic format under the Governor's Executive Order 16 as continued in its current iteration under Executive Order 71, so long as the board determines that the business conducted by the board is essential business. As such, I would recommend that a motion be made that the business before the board is essential business, that the board chooses to meet in an electronic format, and that all board rules and regulations to the contrary be waived.
Very well. I'll entertain a motion as stated, as requested.
So moved, Will Conway.
Second, Joe Perlin.
Motion and second. Any discussion? As I call your name, please vote in the affirmative or as in opposition. Mr. Conway.
Yay.
Mr. Perlin.
Yay.
Ms. Spalding.
Yay.
Get that.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
And I see that Ms. Jarman has joined us. Ms. Jarman, did you hear the
Yay.
motion?
Yes, thank you. Yay.
Thank you so much. Welcome. And Ben, I would ask you, okay, sorry, I didn't hear any opposed, so the motion passes. Benton, if you'll help me watch to see if, I think the only person we're missing is Mr. Bellamy. Should he join us, if you would just interrupt me and let me know, just so I can be aware.
We'll do that.
Thank you. Next on the agenda this evening, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. I'll entertain a motion to do so.
So moved, Will Conway.
Second, Joe Perlin.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion, edits, amendments? Hearing none, as I call your name, I'll entertain your votes. Ms. Jarman.
Yay.
Mr. Conway.
Yay.
Mr. Perlin.
Yay.
Ms. Spalding.
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
We have 5 yeas, no nays. Motion passes. Minutes are approved. I will read a memo regarding appeals. If you're not satisfied with the decision of the Metropolitan Beer Permit Board regarding your application or your hearing, you may appeal the decision to the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court pursuant to the requirements set forth in TCA 57-5-108. The decisions of the Metropolitan Beer Permit Board take effect on a date to be determined by the board. However, you may file an appeal within 60 days of the date of entry of the board's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Moving on, next on the agenda are applications up for approval. Based on staff recommendations to approve, to grant these, we'll take them all in one motion at the end. Number 3, A&A Properties, Inc., Garibaldi Market. Number 4, HASD LLC, Tailgate Brewery, East Nashville. 5, Shep's Nashville LLC, Shep's Delicatessen. 6, Southern Grist Brewing Company LLC, Southern Grist Brewing Company. That's the delivery curbside. Number 7, Smith & Lentz Brewing Company LLC, Smith & Lentz Brewing Company. That's a delivery curbside. Number 8, Family Dollar TN Inc., Family Dollar number 22297. Number 9, Flag Store LLC, Flag Store Market and Vape. 10, NNP Royal 2 LLC, Fairfield Inn and Suites, Nashville. 11, TN Fold LLC, TN Fold, that's a delivery curbside. Number 12, Sonesta International Hotels Corporation, Sonesta Select Nashville Airport Suites. 13, Sister Cities of Nashville, Sister Cities, that's a special event. Number 14, Daddy's Dogs Catering LLC, Daddy's Dogs Catering. 15, Southern Grist Brewing Company, Southern Grist Brewing Company, a delivery curbside. 16, Cost Plus Inc., World Market number 300. 17, Midtown Hotel Partners LLC, Fairfield Inn and Suites, Nashville, Vanderbilt. 18, 831 International Investment Professional LLC, Shab Shabu Hot Pot and Barbecue. Number 19, Milad Sawirs, Koto Discount Tobacco. And 20, Four Corners Yacht Club Inc., Four Corners Marina, it's a delivery curbside. Staff recommendations on those I just read is to grant. I'll entertain a motion to do so.
So moved, Will Conway.
Second, Joe Perlin.
Thank you, gentlemen. I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion? I'll entertain your vote as I call your name on the motion to grant. Ms. Jarman,
Yay.
Mr. Conway,
Yay.
Mr. Perlin,
Yay.
Spalding,
Yay.
and Ms. Fox.
Yay.
5 yeas, no nays, motion passes. Those applications are granted. Most likely the staff will email those permits to be printed and displayed per rules and regs on the walls of those establishments. Thank you. The following applications, based on staff recommendation and no changes, are subject to be deferred indefinitely. Again, staff has recommended the following to be deferred indefinitely. Please understand that if you are one of these, that once you submit all the necessary and required documents, Beer Board staff does have the ability to issue temp permits. And then it is upon the applicant's, it's the applicant's responsibility to request to be put back on the agenda for permanent approval. Number 21, Grams LLC, Grams. Number 22, JKO Enterprises Inc., Natchez Hills at the Hermitage. 23, JS Young Enterprise Corp., La Mexicana Restaurant. 24, BT Nashville LLC, Brown's Diner. 25, GB Nashville LLC, the Gumbo Brothers. 26, GB Nashville LLC, the Gumbo Brothers. 25 was a delivery curbside, 26 is on premise. 27, Hops and Crafts LLC, Hops and Crafts. 28, GB Nashville LLC, the Gumbo Brothers, it's a caterer. 29, Shake Shack Tennessee LLC, Shake Shack. 30, 10 South Distillery LLC, Big Machine Brewery and Distillery. 31, Nashville Dolphins, that's a special event. 32, 10 South Distillery LLC, Big Machine Brewery and Distillery, that's a wholesale. Staff recommendation is for indefinite deferral of those I just read. Any comments? I'll entertain a motion to defer those indefinitely.
So moved, Will Conway.
Second, Joe Perlin.
With a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain your vote as I call your name. Ms. Jarman.
Yay.
Mr. Bellamy has not joined us. Mr. Conway.
Yay.
Mr. Perlin.
Yay.
Ms. Spalding.
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
5 yeas, no nays, motion passes. Once again, if you are one of those that was just indefinitely deferred, you still have the opportunity to get a temp at staff's discretion once all necessary documents have been submitted. Following application has requested withdrawal. Number 33, Hops and Crafts Gulch LLC, Hops and Crafts Gulch. I'll entertain a motion to withdraw.
So moved, Will Conway.
Thanks.
Second, Joe Perlin.
Thanks, Mr. Perlin. Any discussion? I'll entertain the vote on the motion to withdraw. Ms. Jarman,
Yay.
Mr. Conway,
Yay.
Mr. Perlin,
Yay.
Ms. Spalding,
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
5 yeas, no nays. Application has been withdrawn. Next up are trials this evening. The first one, number 34, Amal Mina, Jerry Sitko. This has been deferred one time before. It's my understanding that the attorney for Jerry Sitko has requested an additional deferral due to a calendar error on their part. Mr. McDonough, you maybe previously mentioned on this one, did they request, or do you have a request, if approved, on a deferral for any specific dates?
We have assigned them to the next meeting in March, the day meeting in March. But as far as the previous deferral, we just deferred them to tonight's meeting, and I believe we have that in writing. I don't have that in front of me though.
Sure. So what is that March date? And are you saying that staff is okay if the board so pleases that we could defer it to that date?
Yes, the staff is okay with that as well, and that would be March the 11th.
And that is a day meeting. So if board does defer that to the day meeting, just understand that we will have that trial on that date. And as this has been deferred once, does the attorney have any issue with the March 11th day meeting date?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, very well. Any questions from the board? I'll say if no questions, I'll entertain a motion for deferral to March 11th meeting.
So moved, Will Conway.
Damn. Second, Joe Perlin.
I have a motion and a second to defer Jerry Sitko to March 11th. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain your vote as I call your name. Ms. Jarman,
Yay.
Mr. Conway,
Yay.
Mr. Perlin,
Yay.
Ms. Spalding,
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
Thank you. 5 yeas, no nays on motion to defer to taxes. Next on the agenda is number 35, Punjab Inc., Sack number 625.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I was going to let you know that Miss Murillo is on the call now. She's under the attendee list, so we'll have to get her. We've got her unmuted now.
And that is, Ms. Morello is,
The court reporter. I'm sorry,
oh, okay. Susan. Got it.
Susan. Yeah, sorry.
I apologize. I should have,
We only know her
a note
by her
in my
first name.
notes to stop, so.
Can you hear
Right,
me?
I apologize. All right, we can, thank you. I apologize, Susan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Director.
Thank you.
Getting a little bit ahead of myself. Okay, so number 35 on the agenda this evening, Punjab Inc., Quick Sack number 625. Director, do you have the numbers so that IT personnel can bring into the meeting telephonically the folks who are subpoenaed from the applicant or from the permit holder side?
We're here if you can hear us.
Is it Ashok Kumar Surath Sengupta?
That's right.
Both of you?
Not Ashok, but Michael White and Surat.
I'm sorry, sir, would you say it one more time? I apologize.
Cook is not here, but Michael White and myself, Surat Sengupta, we are present.
Okay. Who's the permit holder here?
Ashok.
I'm sorry?
Ashok Kumar.
That's the permit holder?
Yes.
And Mr. Sengupta?
I'm the manager.
Okay, so Mr. Kumar was, I'm assuming, I apologize if I'm incorrect. I should not do that. Kumar was subpoenaed but is not with us this evening. Is that correct?
I don't think Mr. Kumar was subpoenaed. I think it was just me and Michael.
Okay. I don't see Mr. White's name
He-
on my agenda, but
He was subpoenaed. We did not subpoena Mr. White. I'm not familiar with who that is.
That was the second page. We recommend you to summon Michael Edward White to personally appear before Metropolitan Beer Board duly created.
He's not listed on our list of subpoenas, but Mr. Kumar is. Or Kumar is, yes.
So here's my question, Director. I'll ask you and I'll ask legal counsel to weigh in. If the permit holder is not here, now granted, they were subpoenaed, so the board can move forward as we see fit. Any guidance from?
I can read the subpoena as far as that's sitting in front of me. We recommend you to summon Surat Sengupta and Michael White. That's it. If it was Ashok Kumar, he would have duly participated.
I'm told that Mr. White was the individual who sold the alcohol.
Right.
So let's do this. Is there anyone on the board who has any issues with moving forward? Hearing none.
Mr. Chair, I just want to double check. So the permit holder was subpoenaed. He just is not available.
No. Permit holder wasn't. It's
Okay.
just my name, Hudson Gupta, and Michael White.
Okay. Should the permit holder not be a part of the conversation?
Well, that's up to you guys.
Well, I'm
We
sorry,
just-
so chair and to the director.
That's a valid question, Mr. Jarman. That's why I was asking that's why I was asking those questions, because it seems fitting that the permit holder would be here to answer on behalf of the entity. To that, I would defer to the director. Do we have factual verification that Mr. Kumar was in fact subpoenaed?
I'm being told that name was left off the subpoena by mistake. So this is probably one that we need to defer.
Okay, so you're cutting out. I think I picked up what you said, but to my concern earlier and Ms. Jarman's question, if the permit holder was not subpoenaed, in my opinion, I feel that the permit holder should have the opportunity to and be sufficiently requested, in this case subpoenaed, to appear for this case, seeing that this is a multiple sale to minor violation. So I think we need to hear from that. I think the appropriate response or appropriate action at this time would be deferral due to in this case, let's say a clerical error.
I agree.
So moved. I make that motion that we defer to give the appropriate amount of notice to the permit holder.
I'll second Mr. Arman's motion.
Who was that? Oh, Mr.
Will Conway, sorry.
About that. So let me ask you, is defer, I think, specific time or a specific date of the meeting, because I believe the March evening meeting from a trial standpoint is full at this point, which is why we put the previous deferral on the day meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so does it make sense to defer this to the day meeting in March, that being March the 11th?
We can do that.
Ms. Jarman and Mr. Conway, are you okay amending your motion and subsequent second to deferral to March 11 meeting?
Yes.
I am, because it's the same amount of appropriate notice as everyone else. So that's why I put that appropriate notice.
Yeah. So I apologize, you missed the first. Just make sure you're good with the amendment, correct?
Yes, I'm good with the motion.
Mr. Conway, you were good with the amendment as well?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to defer number 35, quick sack number 625 to the March 11th meeting. And so before we vote on that, Mr. Sengupta, I apologize that you
Yes.
are here tonight and that we are deferring it, but you understand what we're about to do.
So you're deferring this meeting to some other day?
Yes, sir. We have a motion on the table and a second, and the board is about to vote, most likely to defer this hearing to the March 11 Beer Board meeting, which is a day meeting. Those meetings happen between noon and 1 o'clock on March 11th. Just want to make sure that you understand that what we're about to do.
Right.
Okay, so I'd imagine also that as we're deferring it, Mr. Director, there will be a subsequent new subpoenas on this behalf.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Motion and a second. Any additional discussion on this deferral? And your vote on the motion to defer to March 11. When I call your name, Ms. Jarman,
A.
Mr. Conway.
Yay.
Mr. Conway, was that a yay?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, cut out just for a second. Mr. Perlin. Ms. Spalding.
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
Thank you. 5 yeas, no nays. Motion to defer passes. Mr. Sengupta, Mr. White, thank you for appearing this evening. Ideally, we will hear you again on March the 11th, which point in time Mr. Kumar will hopefully be here as well.
Okay.
All right. We apologize for the confusion, but thank you for being here.
All right. Good now.
Have a good evening. All right, moving on, number 36, Julio Arias Cecilia Daniela's Restaurant. Is Julio Arias Cecilia with us this evening? Mr. McDonald, we have a number.
Jimmy? Yes.
I'm sorry.
We have Brenda Shields is on the line as well.
Yes.
Representing as well.
Yes.
Ms. Shields, your role here is?
Kind of like a translator for him to understand what's going on.
Okay. So in this case, my first question is it like, just so I'm correct, is Mr. Cecilia, is that correct?
Yes.
So I must first ask, do you plead guilty or not guilty to the violation?
Okay. You can plead guilty or not guilty. Do you plead guilty or not guilty to the violation? Not guilty.
Shields, are you calling in?
It's saying,
Usually they want me
you're
to
not
Getting
guilty.
a lot of
no
feedback.
convened.
Didn't know.
So again, in this case, is the plea guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty. He didn't understand that he couldn't, I mean, he didn't understand until the night they came in. But the bar was closed to the public.
Okay, so the first order is not guilty plea. Who will be speaking in this trial on behalf of the Metro Beer Board?
We actually have Mr. Hugh Atkins, who is testifying this evening.
Yeah, I hate to interrupt, but I do have a question. Does he understand what we're saying? And because I know that this lady's being very helpful and for being an interpreter, but is she going to be able to interpret whatever the inspectors say to him to where he adequately understands it? 'Cause I'm just not clear on that right now.
Well, he's kind of having a hard time understanding what you're asking him. So I'm kind of repeating it to him slowly, unless you guys want to repeat it to him really slow so that he understands.
We need to be fine with Ms. Shields. In this case, Mr. Conway, obviously it is an issue that we always want to make sure that everyone understands what our proceedings are and the resulting outcome and the process along the way. In this case, I think it's in all our best interest to proceed, and really in this forum, we'll figure it out along the way. It's really not understanding the laws or the rules or regulations is typically not a defense. But again, this is simply an allegation until decided otherwise. So at this point, the applicant or permit holder, has pled not guilty. So is Mr. Atkins here with us? I do see Mr. Atkins. I see you're on the call with us.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. At this point, I would ask anyone that is going to speak in this manner, in this case, Mr. Cecilia, Mr. Atkins, to be sworn in. Susan, if you would be so kind.
If you would both raise your right hands, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Very well. Okay, so I think we're going to hear from Mr. Atkins on this particular manner this evening.
Okay. Yeah. On the early morning of December 5th, overnight, December 4th, personnel from the Metro Public Health Department, along with Beer Board personnel and also Metro Public Nashville Police Department, went to establishment area of Yellow Bar and Grill to do checks on establishments that were operating past 11 o'clock that night in violation of that time what would have been third amended and restated order 12, which had a closure time set at 11 o'clock, and last entrance of patrons was to be at 10, and everybody off the premises at 11. So the police filed a report of what they witnessed there,
and stated they were there at 10 minutes after midnight and could see people drinking and not masked, not social distancing, and they had the door locked and were preventing people from seeing in and to come in. Same basic report was found our Metropolitan environmental health specialist that was there. So they both state that there were over 50 patrons in the establishment past the 11 o'clock closure time. Again, we were under third amended and restated order 12 then. It had a 11 o'clock closure. We are now at a midnight closure, but they were open past that time then as well. A little, I guess, beside the point. We had been at an 11 o'clock closure since the middle of September at the time. On the second amended order 11, had extended it to 11 o'clock from 10:30, which previous orders had. So the closure time several months now, and they were clearly in violation. Had several people in the establishment past the closure time of 11 o'clock.
Very well. Mr. Atkins, does that conclude your comments?
Yes.
And again, would you restate what is the order that the violation is alleged to have occurred? What order is that? Would you say that again? The third order?
Yeah. Third amended and restated order 12.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Ms. Shields, do you and more importantly, Mr. Cecilia, understand what Mr. Atkins was saying, and at the same time understand this point a bit better what the violation is?
What my understanding is when I saw it on the news, I told him he had to close the bar at 11:30 and people had to be gone by 12. And he had done that, but there was a private birthday party that he was hosting that was not open to the public, and there was not 50 people in there. It was family and friends of the person that had wanted to rent the back part of the bar for him to be able to host a birthday party for her and another gentleman. But I heard on the news, and I told him he had to lock the gates and close the doors at 11:30 because that was the last time that I heard it on the news as far as bar closing. But he had to have everybody out of the bar by 12 o'clock. And so at 12 o'clock, these people were in there to rent the bar for a private birthday party for just their family and friends. So he did not understand that this being a private birthday party and it wasn't open to the public and his doors were closed, that he could not do that.
Okay, for the time being, does that conclude your comments? Mr. Atkins, I believe you may have had a comment because your time frame is in contention with the time frame that Ms. Shields stated.
Well, she said that she thought they could stay up until midnight. So, they had people in there after midnight, and even what she described to be a violation of another section of the same order. can't have a gathering, private gathering, any kind like that, without submitting an application for approval for that gathering, birthday party, anniversary party, whatever. Over 8 people, they are required for any type of gathering, private or party of any kind, to submit approval for an event. And they did not do that either. And the events have the same closure, shutdown time as restaurants and bars. So even if it was operating as a private party, the way we found it would have been a violation of that section of the order as well.
Okay, very well.
It's an 8 people room.
I'm sorry, I was not aware that for him to do that he had to get a permit to be able to have a private party or a private birthday party. I wasn't aware of that. So, I mean, I was trying to keep him informed at the times because he doesn't watch the news or anything, and he wasn't getting any type of information. So I was always trying to watch the news, but I was not aware of any permits that he had to get for a private party, for a private birthday party. And there probably wasn't. They keep saying that there was 50 and over 50 that was in there and stuff, but I can guarantee you in that club, there's never been over 20, 25 people in there.
Okay, thank you.
It's 3 rooms.
Are there any questions from the board, either for Ms. Shields, Mr. Cecilia, or Mr. Atkins?
Concern is I have a lot of concerns about his understanding of what we're doing, because we haven't heard from him. I haven't heard any interpretation or translation to him to know what's happening, and so I'm concerned there first about, does he understand the following, what we're doing today. So I'll stop there for a second and just see how we want to address that.
And that's what I was initially going off of too, Ms. Jarman, because I did not hear Ms. Shields actually doing any interpreting. You know, if he understands English and he knows what's going on, you know, that's one thing. She wasn't subpoenaed, and I don't even know who she is. I'm sure she's not a certified interpreter. If he knows what we're saying, then I'm fine. You know, obviously the ignorance of not knowing what the hours were or anything is clearly not a defense. I'm not trying to say that it is, but you know, does he know English? Does he not know English? Because I'm definitely not hearing English being interpreted into Spanish or whatever his native language is. So I kind of share Ms. Jarman's concern, I guess is what I'm saying.
Sure. Ms. Shields, do you want to address that? Or Mr. Cecilia, can you address this?
Yes, I went forward with him, and they rescheduled the court date from February 9th to March 9th to have an interpreter there for him so that he could understand better in Spanish. He does speak a little English, broken English, but he doesn't really understand a whole lot.
Mr. Chairman,
no.
Mr. Chairman, this is Delphine Fox. May I ask a question to Ms. Shields, please?
Yes, please.
Ms. Shields, do you not speak Spanish at all? I mean, were you going to interpret is that his native language?
Yes, that is his language, and I speak very, very little. I'm not not real good at English, let me just put it, or Spanish.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question to Mr. Cecilia in Spanish?
I don't have any issues with that. Does the board have any issues? Any other board member have an issue with this?
No, Ms. Fox, please, by all means.
Very well.
She's in Spanish.
Okay.
Okay, Julio.
Sí.
Me llamo Delfín Fox. Yo hablo español.
Ok.
Solo que están hablando que dicen que quebraste la ley, ¿verdad? Porque tenías tu lugar abierto cuando no debías de haber cerrado a las 11 de la noche por la pandemia que tenemos de COVID-19, ¿verdad?
Abierto no. Estaba operando, pero no estaba abierto para el público. Estaba para un parque privado.
Sí, tenías tu negocio abierto para algo
Privado.
de preso, ¿verdad?
Ajá, privado. Sí, no estaba abierto para público, estaba todo cerrado.
Bueno, como quiera, quebraste la ley.
Bueno, a mí nadie me informó.
Debías de haber cerrado.
Sí, ok. Pues me están diciendo eso, yo le expliqué a la inspectora, pero a mí nadie me mandó a decir si eso se podía hacer o no. Porque a mí no me mandan información, o sea, todas las noticias que yo oigo es porque alguien me dice, oye, mañana van a cerrar a las 11, mañana, pero nadie, ni Geo de Palme, ni Big Board me notifica a mí qué es lo que debo hacer, qué es lo que no debo hacer. No tengo información.
Ok, Julio, un momento, por favor. All right, Mr. Cecilia is saying that nobody has sent him any information. You know, he's mentioning all these officials that have not spoken to him. So I'm going to explain to him that if he is the owner of this restaurant, that it is up to him to learn the legal procedure of running a business.
Mr. Director, in fact, are you okay with Ms. Fox proceeding in that manner?
I'm okay with that, as long as legal is comfortable with it as well.
Mr. Garth?
I'm comfortable with it as well. I would just suggest that if Ms. Fox is the translator, that she not vote in this matter simply to avoid the appearance of impropriety of having the translator also be a deciding vote in the matter. So I would just make that recommendation.
And I concur with that.
Any concerns of the board members with that manner, with that practice? Okay, Ms. Fox, please proceed.
Okay, Julio.
Yes, sí.
¿Tú eres el dueño del negocio?
Sí.
Bueno, eres tu responsabilidad a saber todo lo que tienes que saber de tu negocio. Eres tu responsabilidad
pero ¿dónde voy?
que tienes. Un momento, déjame que ver. Okay. Tienes que tú a buscar qué es lo que está pasando de las leyes, porque estamos en algo bien difícil, ¿verdad? Algo bien que tienes, todo está cambiando, todos los días está cambiando algo, ¿verdad? Cuando tienes un negocio, tú tienes que saber qué es la ley, tú tienes que saber qué está pasando, tú tienes que llamarle a todos los oficiales que te puedan ayudar para que tú entiendas qué está pasando con los papeles que necesitas de correr tu negocio.
Es que a mí nadie me informó nada de eso, nadie me llama. La inspectora le pregunté, le dije que eso y ella no, ella solo escribió y no me contestó nada.
Bueno,
le estoy explicando que yo le expliqué a ella que yo tengo tres cuartos y un patio. La cantidad de personas que había, no había más de 8 por cuarto. Al ver la policía, todo el mundo se puso nervioso, por eso es que ella ve aglomeración de gente, pero normalmente dentro del local estaba todo bien correcto, con mesas están todas separadas, con su distancia, todo estaba correcto. Alguna gente con sin máscara, por supuesto, están comiendo o están bebiendo lo que están, el cake, el cumpleaños. Ella vio en la esquina del birthday, el cake, se lo expliqué más de 5 veces, pero no entendió, siguió escribiendo y no me dejó defenderme.
Pero no es el defensa de usted para decir que yo no entendía, ¿verdad? La ley es la ley.
Bueno, la ley es la ley, pero nadie me explica. Usted me está explicando ahora que yo debo, pero ¿dónde tengo que dirigirme yo? Para yo saber qué es lo que está pasando, porque yo me entero porque la bartender me manda un mensaje, me dice, en la noticia dice que a las 12, pero yo no sé si es verdad o real o no. Sí, nadie me explica a mí. El deber de ustedes, el deber de los inspectores es enseñarle a todos, hacerle conciencia a la gente, enseñarle qué es lo que se debe hacer, lo que no se debe hacer, no llegar por una vez que vayan al bar mío y hacerme todo el desmadre que me han hecho. Me han hecho una cantidad de cosas por un día que yo fui y mi bar ha corrido y han ido las inspecciones y todo está bien correcto, bien limpiecito, porque no es la primera vez que van los inspectores ahí. Han ido varias veces y todo estaba bien correcto con la distancia, las máscaras, limpiecito, todo. No por un día me han hecho todo eso.
Un momento, ¿ok? Voy a explicarles a ellos qué es lo que está diciendo.
Ok, gracias.
Okay, so Mr. Cecilia is saying pretty much the same thing, that he did not understand, that nobody came to him and let him know what he was supposed to do, which I explained in return that it was up to him. It was his responsibility as a business owner to make sure he knows how to run a business and to make sure he keeps up the fact that we are in a pandemic. We are in a place where things are changing every day. And it is up to him to know what is changing every day so he can run his business accordingly. And of course, he is responding and telling me that the inspectors have gone in and nobody explains to him what is going on when they go in and look and see what he is doing. I explained to him that the fact that he is pleading ignorance is no defense, that the law is the law, that he needs to make sure he knows this. He needs to find someone when he goes in to explain to him what this law is, so that he can make sure that he is running his business correctly.
Okay, can I ask a question, Mr. Atkins? Other than the litany of information discussed, previewed, disclosed, reported on in the news media and the written media, have businesses across the county receive formal notices? Is that a thing? Do they do that?
Well, we have it sent out, and as you can see there, we were on third amended restated order 12. So this stuff changes. It's pretty fluid. We're actually making some changes right now to go into effect. So, we update the website in both Spanish and English immediately upon any changes. But I will note too that early on, back in March of last year, we canvassed, staff went out and told them we were under this pandemic. Their businesses were going to be under certain restrictions for a while, explained those. And then also we have continued to conduct regular regulatory inspections of these food service establishments all during this time. And during those, part of a regular food service establishment now is a consult on whether they're in compliance with the order we happen to be under. And that establishment received a regulatory food inspection on the 5th of November of this year, which was like a month before this violation occurred. So we do avail ourselves to them during our regular inspections, and also people, our information is out there to get in touch with us, consultation if needed. So, but as far as doing mass mailings or emails out to every one of the several thousand places we regulate, we don't.
So I have a question as well to Mr. Atkins. When you're going to doing the regulatory checks, is there someone who speaks Spanish who's in those consults with the business owners?
That was going to be my question as well.
Yeah, it just depends on the situation. If during an inspection, we have a couple of environmental health specialists that do speak Spanish, but obviously all the establishments with Spanish-speaking management are not assigned to those. But if you ever get in a situation pre-COVID or order related, but just food safety related, anything that they deal with where they indicate or we feel like they do not understand what we are trying to convey to them, then we have an interpreter on staff at Metro Public Health that our field staff can reach in real time, or they can call in and get one of the Spanish-speaking environmental specialists to assist with making sure that the message is being conveyed. Also, if it, especially with the food safety issues that we run into, if we feel that they don't understand what the person who's making the inspection is trying to convey, we can make a follow-up visit to make sure that we have somebody there that can communicate with them.
Mr. Atkins, on your last visit to this establishment, was there a Spanish-speaking person with whoever went to the scene?
I don't have that file. I wouldn't know without looking at the file. I looked up in the system while I was sitting here to see when the last inspection was, but it doesn't have the details of, it talks about, I know which field environmental specialist went there. Yeah, she has that in her assigned territory right now, and she's not one of the Spanish speakers, but I don't have any idea whether they reached out for any kind of interpretation as to the inspection.
I have a question to Mr. Atkins, or maybe even the director. Was there a beer board inspector on this for this violation?
Yes, I believe Melvin Brown took part in that as well. He's actually under number 7, the number 7 caller.
So is there any objection to anybody on the board hearing from Mr. Brown? Obviously, he's not sworn in, so Susan, you'll have to swear him in. Is there any objection from the board to hearing from Mr. Brown on the events this evening? Hearing none. Brennan, could we unmute Mr. Brown? I think Mr. McDonough said he's number 7 on the call-in list. And Mr. Brown, if you would confirm when you are with us. Before you speak, we do need to have you sworn in.
Yes, sir. You're ready.
If you'll raise your right hand, please.
Ma'am?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Susan. Mr. Brown, I'm assuming you've heard most of the conversation thus far. Could I ask you to report from your perspective the events on this particular date at this location?
This occurred on December 5th, and I actually believe that was Friday night after midnight on the 5th, but somewhere about that weekend. And what Director Atkins said from the report that the health inspector on site gave, do recall that information to the best of my memory accurate. The only thing that I would add that for several minutes we were accompanied by Metro police officers. And for several minutes there were dozens of cars parked outside. For several minutes, knocked on the doors. We got some response through the door verbally, and it took anywhere. It's hard to measure the time looking back for months, but it took anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes to get someone to finally open the door. When the door was open, the entire complex of the location is relatively large, and goes in a bound, and there's some outside patio areas, and there were dozens of people there, not wearing masks, etc. It also appeared that they were trying to hide because the police were there knocking on the door. So it appeared to me that either everyone felt that they were doing something wrong, whether they knew that being open past time and not being in compliance with the county health director's orders, if that's what they were, what if they knew they were doing that wrong, I don't know, but they hid and all about the place in several groups, and we kept telling everybody, hey, it's okay, everybody come on out, it's all right, come on out. And also there were, if I recall correctly, there were several camera monitors inside, so the outside was able to be monitored by management or staff. They could see that it was the police outside or some type of a regulatory authority, and nonetheless, they didn't open the door for a long time. Now, as to the aspect of the private parties, this and that, regardless of that, and I'm certainly not an attorney, but this is a place of business with a beer permit and a business license, and whether it was open to the public or not, it was extremely full of the public, and it was to the subject of the language barrier. English is a second language. I do agree that it was probably difficult for the gentleman on site. He seemed to try to understand and talk, and he did discuss in English with us and with the health inspector, who we let the health inspector really handle it. We were just witnesses. But he did try to cooperate and try to understand. But I cannot dispute that there is a language barrier. But I also cannot dispute that this was a chronic and acute at the same time. It was both chronic and acute and gross violation of the health department director's order. And I'll be glad to try to answer questions to the best of my memory.
So, just so that there's some translation from what was said, Ms. Fox, are you comfortable kind of summing up what Mr. Brown just stated for Mr. Cecilia?
I can, yes.
And Ms. Fox, if it'll help you, if you tell me, I'll do either way. I'll summarize it for you again. You can summarize my summary if you like.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I pretty much wrote a lot of what you said, so I could translate it for you.
Okay, so is there any objection from the board for Ms. Fox summarizing and translating the commentary from Mr. Brown?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Seeing
Yes.
okay. Ms. Fox.
Okay.
You may go. You may proceed.
Señor Cecilia, ¿está ahí todavía?
Sí, ¿me escucha?
Ok. Bueno, el inspector estaba diciendo que cuando ellos fueron a visitar a su negocio, fueron en diciembre, el 5 de diciembre. Era el viernes en la noche, se está acordando un poco a poco, ¿verdad?
Ok, sí.
Y dice que sonaron mucho en la puerta y nadie abría la puerta. Hasta cuando abrió la puerta, entonces ellos miraron que sí tenía gente allí, ¿verdad? Más de los números que debía de tener. Y que
mi capacidad.
Déjeme acabar. Ok, y muchos no estaban usando la máscara, ¿verdad? Que tienen que tener por el COVID-19 pandemia, ¿verdad? Y luego, solo que y también tiene cámaras allí, solo que usted tiene cámaras adentro, ¿verdad?
Ok, sí.
Bueno, entonces ellos miraron que ustedes podían mirar que cuando ellos estaban sonando en la puerta, ustedes miraron que también la policía estaba con ellos, ¿verdad?
Ok, eso es lo que le iba a explicar. Que las cámaras están adentro, yo estaba en el patio atrás, en la cámara de cerveza. Estaba buscando una cerveza que me estaban pidiendo específicamente y yo estaba atrás en la cámara. Ellos no sabían porque yo estaba atendiendo. Yo tengo 3 cuartos y un patio grande atrás. La gente todos estaban dispersados entre el patio y eso. Yo estaba atrás. Ellos no pueden abrir la cámara sin mi autorización. El único que estaba autorizado era yo hasta que ellos me encontraron. Cuando ellos me encontraron, yo fui a abrir la puerta. Y todo estaba bien hasta que llegó la policía. Cuando abrí, entraron 7 policías y la inspectora. Lógico, la gente ven en la cámara y todos se pusieron nerviosos porque dijeron, ¿qué pasó? 7 policías, una inspectora, pasó algo grande. Entonces, cuando yo salí, yo venía por atrás, salí, le abrí a ellos, porque yo venía por fuera. Le abrí a ellos, venía de la cámara, me puse mi máscara, porque yo andaba sin máscara, porque estaba metido dentro de la cámara, me puse mi máscara y entré con ellos. Y ahí fue donde yo le expliqué a ellos la situación, pero ya ellos, las personas que estaban adentro, al ver la cámara y ver, no abrieron la puerta porque estaban nerviosos. No sé cuál es la situación, por qué se pusieron nerviosos, porque no deben ponerse. Entonces fue que yo abrí la puerta y le expliqué a ella, pero la gente estaban todos normales. Yo tengo 3 cuartos de 30 por 30 y un patio que tiene casi 80 por 30. Todos estaban dispersados en todo el área. O sea, que no estaban juntos hasta que, claro, ellos lo van a ver juntos porque cuando la policía los manda a sacar, a salir, habían algunos que no tenían máscara porque estaban comiendo el cake, estaban en la parte del birthday, del cumpleaños. Por supuesto, si estaban comiendo cake y estaban cortando el cake, no pueden tener máscara porque están comiendo. Y no eran arriba de 10 personas.
¿Y qué tiempo era?
A las 12.
Bueno, pero ya entiendes que era las 12, entiendes que tenías que haber cerrado a las 11, ¿verdad?
Bueno, estoy entendiendo ahora, porque a mí nadie me notificó. Sí estaba cerrado, pero nadie me notificó que no podía tener un pequeño party privado adentro. Yo pensé que era cerrar para el público y darse más nada.
Sí.
O sea, ya no abrir más para el público para que no haya el entrizale de personas, o sea, las mismas personas que eran familias adentro. Eso no tiene por qué contaminarse la gente.
¿Entiendes, verdad? ¿Entiendes ya que no podías, verdad?
Esa es la parte que no entiendo, que no podía para el público, pero yo no estoy hablando para el público, es lo que yo no entiendo.
Tampoco para un party privado.
Pero no lo sabía, para un party privado no lo sabía. Es lo que
Bueno,
te digo, yo no tengo la website donde yo ver lo que se puede hacer, lo que no se puede hacer. Ahí es donde está mi duda. ¿Qué es lo que puedo hacer? ¿Qué es lo que no puedo hacer?
Explicarle a ellos en inglés, por favor. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Chairman, let me explain in English what he just said.
Okay, please.
Okay. So Mr. Cecilia is saying that when there was knocking at the door, that he was out back because he was servicing the party, obviously, and he was getting some beer. So he did not hear it until he walked back in. That's why it took a while to open those doors. He said he walked back in, and of course he was not wearing his mask. He put his mask on, and everybody seemed pretty nervous because when he turned on, he was able to study the camera that they did see Metro with the inspectors. So everybody inside the party was pretty nervous. Said he opened the door, and once he did that they came in and they started explaining, and he was able to speak with them and pretty well understand a little bit of what they were saying. But once again, he mentions that even though his business was closed, that he was having a private party, and he did not realize that he was not supposed to. He is asking for help. He is asking for someone to work with him as to where he can understand much better how to run his business.
Very well. So to that point, I think there's at least a clear understanding of where we are. I think the parties, both sides, are clear. Is there anyone on the board who disagrees?
I'm clear. I want to I want to say a few things though, because it wouldn't be who I am if I didn't. I want us to be cautious of how we present biases in this conversation. We got to be careful about saying things like when the police show up, they were, hiding. If the police show up at my house and I'm unannounced or my business, I got a problem too. So I want us to be cautious that is not a indication of criminal behavior. The other thing that concerns me is that this is not necessarily a lack of business acumen. If there's not someone who can speak to this person directly in their native language, and the only way they can get information is by calling in a number or hoping that someone who shows up is helpful, I get concerned about that, because we say that we're a city for all people. And so that is concerning. And so while I understand both sides, I don't look at this as a persecution of his lack of on running a business. This is that laws have changed or guidelines have changed almost daily for most people. And even those who speak English as a first language have had a lot of challenges. We have a lot of businesses in Nashville, in lots of parts of town, who have been in extreme violations for misunderstanding. And so when you add on top of that, the need to translate information, now we have, and who is helping to translate information is not necessarily an interpreter, but someone who's trying to be very helpful. While that's great, that is still a challenge. So I just want us to be really cautious about how we present information here, how we present our biases in these conversations about what we think has happened at a location, and then also be mindful that everybody has done the best they can, everybody on all sides, and that does not necessarily mean he's not running a good business. So I just don't want anybody on the line to hear that and think that for some reason he's out of compliance purposefully or intentionally. That is not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a person who would absolutely probably follow in compliance if understood that every day something has changed and now you have to do something brand new. In a matter of 30 minutes or an hour between 10 and 11:30 and 11:30 to 12, that's a lot of changes that we've had happen, and sometimes not having anybody to explain that. So I'll leave that there, but I still have lots of concerns about this particular situation for that reason.
Sure. Thanks, Ms. German. Any other comments from the board?
Am I allowed to make a comment on that? Mr. Chairman?
I'm thinking, Ms. Fox. Mr. Garth, as you made a statement earlier about Ms. Fox's recusal likelihood, is it okay that she makes a comment as a response to Mr. German's comment?
Well, I think it would be the better practice since Ms. Fox is serving in the role as a translator, that she not participate in any of the decision-making or deliberative process of coming to a decision on the ultimate outcome of the matter. Since she's serving in the role of a translator, I think it's best that she simply just translate what the permit holder says, and not to actually participate in the deliberative decision-making process on this matter.
Understood.
I would agree. Hence my pause and deferral. Any other board comments before we move forward? Like my comment to my next question to the board will be a move to dismiss or sustain. But before I call for that order motion, my comment, while I certainly agree with Ms. Jarman's concerns and just overall comment here, because we always should be mindful of those and do what we can to make business easier, not the opposite. In this case, it seems like the commentary from the permit holder thus far has been, I'm still not clear whether they did or didn't really know what the times were but it's been stated a couple times that they made the point that it was a private party, not a public gathering. And it was my comment or my question to Mr. Atkins earlier that outside of just the inundation of news coverage and information that's out there, and granted, I don't speak Spanish, so I don't listen to the news coverage from that perspective. But just the pure information, amount of information that's out there for the public to consume on the health department's orders with regard to the food and beverage as well as the hospitality industry, I find it difficult that anyone doesn't understand that large gatherings, regardless of what they are, wouldn't understand. Now, again, that's just an opinion. So that's my take on that. To that point, my next question to the board is in form of asking for a motion to either dismiss or to sustain the citation as the permit holder did plead not guilty.
I'll move to sustain the violation, Will Conway.
Joe Perlin, second.
I have a motion and a second to sustain the citation. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain your vote on the motion to sustain as I call your name. Fox, I will not be calling your name as you shall not be voting on this matter. And we certainly appreciate your interpretation and your assistance in this matter greatly today. Ms. Jarman.
Nay.
Mr. Conway.
Yay.
Mr. Perlin.
Yay.
Ms. Spalding.
Yay.
I have 3 yeas, no nays. Motion to sustain passes. At this point, I'll entertain a motion on penalty. And before I do that, I've got a question about staff recommended penalty because I'm not sure I agree with that. Mr. McDonough, I guess I'm curious as to why the staff recommended penalty in this case is $3,000 with only a 7-day suspension option. It doesn't seem like it's an equal offset.
Well, the $3,000 is based upon the number of violations, and then the 7 days is based upon the fact that it was their first offense. But they are just recommendations.
Very well. At this point, I'll entertain a motion on penalty. And then we can discuss it from there.
I don't think this is as egregious as some of the violations that we have seen in other cases. Therefore, I would make a motion for a $1,500 civil penalty or 7-day suspension and 30-day probation.
A second. Joe Perlin.
I have a motion and a second on a $1,500 civil penalty or the option of serving a 7-day suspension followed by a 30-day probation. Any discussion on that motion?
As the director, I heard the number of violations was the reason for it to be $3,000. Can you expound on that? I'm just not seeing that in the.
Let me pull it up here. It would be based upon the fact that they were operating after hours. They were not observing the mask mandate, and they were not practicing social distancing protocols. And based upon those 3 violations and the precedent set by the board previously, that comes out to a $3,000 civil penalty in that matter.
So let me ask a question regarding that. is what, in this case, it's a violation of MPHD order number 12. And these three things by themselves and stand alone are a violation of that order, correct? It just so happens that all these things are happening as the violation of that one order. That's correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And it's also set that way because that's the way that the board ruled in the cases that we had dating back to June when we first started assisting with mask mandates. So in order to fall into line with what we did previously, the board would have to put in place $1,000 for each civil penalty for each violation.
I hear what you're saying, and I've voiced it in the past. I'm not a fan of, in this case, it's multiplying offenses when they happen at the same time. But again, I don't know that I intend to vote on this matter unless I have to.
But I will add that
this is a violation of one violation of one order, as it's all happening at the same time and at the same location on the same date.
right, but it's also following precedent of what the board previously did in similar cases.
Valid argument, but as the board, we can set a new precedent. Any other discussion on the motion?
This is Bailey Spalding. I just want to say that I agree with Ms. Jarman on a lot of the points that she made earlier, just with it being a really hard time for any business owner. You know, I think, you know, it was a violation, but I do think it's a very difficult time for any business owner to be keeping up with what's going on, and so and to echo the chair, that it does seem that this is, you know, a violation of one statute or one order. You know, my thought had been to suggest a $1,000 penalty. You know, I know 1,500 is not off from that, but that was kind of where my mind was.
And I would add, Mr. Chair, if I may, the situation that we run into with this is that we currently have other matters that are being appealed from prior cases, and what we recommended is what the board previously ruled in those cases. And while I believe the board obviously is entitled to make their decision as they see fit based on the rules, you run the risk of basically running into issues in those cases that are being appealed to the courts. And so if you start setting another standard for the civil penalties in a case like this, then you run the risk of running into an issue with the cases that are currently being appealed. So that's why we make the recommendations that we do, because we're trying to protect the board to make sure that if this matter is appealed, that you guys are following prior precedent in this case. And so that's the only reason why we're making such a big deal in these cases, is to make sure that we follow the prior precedent that you all set as a board.
Yeah, completely. Sorry, this is Bailey again. Sorry, I was just saying, I think it's completely understandable. And I think we're in very, very, very difficult times. And it's, so I think just something to consider, you know, excuse me, it's dinner time here. Something to consider, just decimation of information to as many people as possible in a time that's really difficult for all of us. It's a quandary for sure.
Sure, I certainly understand, Mr. Director, which is why, and I'm certainly a stickler for precedent, so that we, as an organization, in this case as a board, are challenged with stepping outside of what we typically do. And in this case, when we set an order or make a decision on anything, and if it is outside of something that we might typically do, one, we have the opportunity as a board with the authority to change what we're doing, change how we do it. At the same time, when we do, if it is changed, I would highly recommend that the commentary follow that change as to why, so that if it's ever questioned as to, okay, you did this here, why do this now, or why do this here when it's a similar situation, just a different time frame. In this case, I've never really been a fan of not causing multiple citation for violations that occurred at one time for one action. So I'll leave it there. We do have a motion on the table for a $1,500 penalty or the option of a 7-day suspension followed by a 30-day probation. Any additional discussion on that motion? Hearing none, as I call your name, I'll entertain your vote on the motion. Ms. Jarman?
Nay.
Mr. Conway?
Yay.
Mr. Perlin?
Yay.
Ms. Spalding? Yay. Ms. Spalding, I didn't catch that.
Yay.
Ms. Spalding's vote is yay. So motion passes 3-1. So Ms. Fox, at this point, I'll ask you to intervene one more time. If you would, please explain to Mr. Cecilia that the board has found guilty of the violation and has issued an order for the following: either a $1,500 civil penalty paid within the next 7 days, or they have the option to serve a suspension for 7 days, beginning at some point, and they can communicate with staff on when that is, but I think there is a limit as to when that must be served as far as when it begins. But a $1,500 civil penalty or the option to serve a 7-day suspension and a 30-day probation that follows with that 7-day suspension. Can you please translate that for me, Lars, please?
I will do so. Okay, Mr. Cecilia.
Sí.
Todavía está, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Okay, lo hallaron de culpa. Solo que le dan dos opciones. Dice que puede pagar 1,500 de multa, y si no quiere pagar los 1,500 de multa, tiene que ser 7 días de suspensión de su licencia y luego le siguen 30 días de probación que le van a poner. Solo que tiene esas opciones: 1,500 que puede pagar de multa, o lo otro, la suspensión de los 7 días y 30 días que siguen.
No, no queda que los 1,500, porque de dónde tengo que sacarle dinero, no tengo dinero, prácticamente mi business está en quiebra, porque imagínense, mis ventas son en la noche y está cerrado, estoy en quiebra prácticamente. Mejor pagar los 1,500, no habrá forma de pago para los 1,500.
Bueno, entonces, si va a pagar los 1,500, puede hablar con la oficina de su licencia y y ellos le dicen cómo puede ser todo eso. ¿Ok?
Aquí al Beer Board, al departamento.
Sí.
Okay.
Ms. Fox, would you please let the permit holder know that the Beer Board staff will be in contact with him very soon with that order, and he can discuss with them his choice of which method he will, or which decision he will make. He does not have to make that decision this evening.
Ok, Mr. Cecilia, no tiene que, si no quiere hacer la decisión ahora en la noche, no tiene que hacerlo, pero el Beer Board, el departamento del Beer Board le va a llamar y le va a preguntar entonces a cuál quiere, ¿verdad? Y luego usted le puede decir a cuál va a ser, si va a pagar el dinero o si quiere la subvención. Y ellos le ayudan, pero ellos le van a llamar, solo que está listo. Se está listo para que hablar con ellos, ¿sí?
Ok, o yo le puedo llamar si quiere mañana o pasado también.
Bueno, nomás
¿Se le puede llamar?
Sí, si usted quiere, puede comunicar con ellos.
Ok.
Bueno, ¿entendió todo?
Sí, yo le llamo, yo me comunico con ellos, yo tengo el teléfono de ellos.
Okay, Mr. Cecilio explains that he understands and he will be communicating with the Beer Board staff.
All right, very good. Ms. Fox, once again, thank you so very much. I really appreciate, and so does the board and everyone on this call, appreciates your involvement in that process. Mr. Cecilia, thank you very much for being here. Ms. Shields, thanks for being here on his behalf as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
You too, thank you.
Okay, moving on. Number 37, and I will note that, and if it's okay with the board, because it's the same permit holder on 3 different occasions, that we can have one discussion and vote, and then discuss how we assess each item going forward, as I believe. So 2, well, maybe not. Maybe the last one. The last one is a similar violation. Number 37, 38, and 39. Cajun Inc. Nashville Hookah Bar. Benton, are these 3 similar violations just on different dates? Am I reading this correct?
That is correct.
Okay, 3 violations of the Metro Health Department order.
Right.
Okay. So do we have the individuals here this evening who will speak on behalf of the permit holder?
Yes, I'm here.
Please.
The daddy.
Was supposed to be another person here, but I don't know if she's attending or not.
And what is your name?
My name's Athria Schleman.
Okay. And the other person, other individual subpoenaed was Marina Schleman?
Yes.
Is that person with us?
I'm not sure if she's on here or not. I seen that she had dropped her phone in the water, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but she knew she was supposed to be here. So I don't know if she had a problem getting on or whatever.
Okay, Director, do you have a separate phone number that we could confirm or not with?
Let me pull that up real quick just to see.
I have a different number because, like I said, she dropped her phone in the water, and I seen where she posted something, and she has another number for her clients to contact her. If you're gonna call her, you want to call her on that number?
No matter, it'd be she would need to call into the meeting number, and then our IT personnel would have to unmute her.
Okay. Well, I sent her the information, so I mean, she knows to call in. I'm on my phone, so I can't call her because I'm on here with y'all.
I don't see her listed.
Do you know what the last 4 digits of her number are?
It's 48714. And then for the other number that she's using right now, let me see. Hold on, let me pull it up at my RIMA. For the other number that she's using right now, it is 629-210-6808.
And that number?
Yeah, I don't see that number listed. Yeah, she's not, as far as I can tell, she's not on the call.
Okay. Ms. Schleman, are you the permit holder?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay. Then is the board okay? Anybody on the board object to continuing to move forward on this matter? As Ms. Schleman is with us, she is the permit holder. Hearing none, we will move forward. On behalf of the Metro Beer Board, we'll be speaking on these matters.
Let me see, we do have Mr. Atkins is speaking, and also I believe Mr. Brown was present for that one as well.
Okay. So in this case, Mr. Brown has already been sworn in, so has Mr. Atkins. Susan, would you be so kind to swear in Ms. Schleman?
Is this Athry Sleeman?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. If you'll raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Ms. Schleman. So first, we're going to hear from Mr. Atkins regarding Nashville Hookah Bar. And Mr. Atkins, as you were discussing this, as I stated just a moment ago, it appears to me that we have 3 different instances of this location violating the same Metro Public Health Department order. If you could address them all during your commentary, we would appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. I have from Metro Police Department and also our field staff on a site visit to this establishment early morning hours of October 6th. For that, I can answer questions. I can talk about that specific visit and also answer questions about the order. That's the only one of these violation occurrences that I'm aware of, unless all 3 contained in the same visit.
Thank you.
3 separate visits or not.
And you, just to confirm, you can only speak to the violation of the order on the one concerning December the 6th. Is that hear you correct?
It was late December the 5th, 11:45. The police sent a report. It was after midnight when I got the report from our staff, so that email was dated the 6th. But the occurrence was the night of the 5th, and I have the reports of it. And they arrived at the establishment at 11:45 with order as for 3rd amended and restated order 12 had a closure time of 11 o'clock. So when they got there at 11:45, front door was locked. They had an entry door at the back. Observed over 100 patrons inside on a maximum occupancy of 80, which means they would have been capped at 40, even if they had been operating in compliance. That's according to the fire marshal's capacity would have been 80, so they were capped at 50% of that. But they had over 100 people in there, no social distancing, no patrons with masks, and he didn't know it was after 11, and that the maximum occupancy was 80 persons. The owner wasn't present, it said, and the police report basically is the same report, just from his, his perspective. Also says your board was present as well.
Okay, and again, just as a reminder to the board for clarification, that is only regarding the matter on number 39 on this evening's agenda. Mr. Brown, will you be speaking as well?
Sir?
Are you speaking on behalf of the Metro Beer Board on numbers 37, 38, and 39?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask you to speak on those matters and end with the matter on the December the 5th and or December the 6th violation?
Yes,
Beginning
sir.
with the violation alleged on November 9th, the alleged violation on November 23rd, and then end with your commentary on the alleged violation of December the 6th, if you will.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
On 11/9, that violation is based upon a official police report, incident report provided to the beer board from the Metropolitan Police Department that stated words to the effect that they did an inspection after the required closing time and found the location to be open and operating for business after the closing time on 11/9. On number 38, that is an identical situation on 11/23/2020. That violation of CCA 68 based on the Metro Police Department providing reports, an official report to the beer board that they did a business check of location on that date, and right 11/9 it was open past the closing time. On December 6th, item number 39, with the health department inspector and the police officers, I was present, and I did observe exactly what the inspector stated in his testimony. I did observe that personally. There was also a matter of, to be completely transparent, there was and the respondent may speak to this. The clock on the wall was off, and it was off nearly an hour. And the excuse given that day was that they really didn't know, and so we really didn't sign them for that. They really didn't know the time, I did view the fire marshal's the posted maximum occupancy was 80, and I counted basically myself, and very, very few people at all wearing masks, very close proximity. If I'm reading the agenda correctly, on 39, as far as the multiple offenses, the offense of being open after closing time was not cited. Just to give the benefit of the doubt that the clock was wrong on the wall, and in fact it was wrong. That concludes my testimony, and I will try to answer any questions that come in.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Ms. Sleeman, I will tell you the floor, but in this case, I'll open the call to your commentary. And again, as you've heard, we're kind of taking them all in one discussion. You can parse them out however you feel you need to. There are 3 separate individual citations alleged on this agenda. The first, number 37 on the agenda, alleges a violation on November 9th. The second one, number 38 on the agenda, alleges a violation on November 23rd. And as you heard, the number 39 on the agenda alleges a violation on or about December the 6th. So to that matter, again, I will open the call in this case to you to explain however you see fit. Ms. Sleeman, are you there?
I'm still. Oh, okay. Oh, I was muted, but okay. Okay. On the first incident, we were not open, and the officers knocked on the back door. There was only the workers here, and we were cleaning up. And he knocked on the back door because one of my employees, he's a young guy, he's 22, he does the hookah, and he had went outside to shut the door. And then when he seen the police, he ran inside and locked the door. So when they knocked, I knew it was the police because he was like, the police are outside. So I opened the door and I was asking what was going on. And he was like, oh, I was just trying to see, if you guys were open. We were not open for business. And he gave me the documentations and told me, the rules for COVID, and was telling me that we had to be closed by 11 o'clock, which we were closed by that time. And he told me it was a warning and that I wasn't going to get fined or anything because he was warning me. That was the first incident. Then the second incident, I was never informed about that incident. The only way I knew about it was when I got the papers from you guys saying that we were fined $1,000, and they even put in the I guess in the police report that they didn't make contact with anybody. So I don't know how they had probable cause to say that I was here. That's what they put in the report, that they knew that I was here, but they didn't make contact with anybody or didn't give anybody anything. So on that incident, I don't even know where that came from. How the final incident, which was December, I think the 5th, and they came here, and that incident, I was out of town. So my sister, who was the other person that was subpoenaed, she was here in charge. And the reason the front door was locked was because at 10:30, when we get ready to kick everybody out, we lock the front door so that we can make sure nobody leaves with any beverages or anything. So we get everybody out the back door. So that's the reason why the front door was locked. And patrons not having masks, when they come in, we require them to wear masks. But this is a bar and people drink and they eat. So once they start doing that, they take their masks off. And the girls, they closed at 11 o'clock. But the time, we have the time that's behind the bar, it was off, and it was like 10:45 from their understanding. So that's why they were still open. So for the December 5th violation, they said that there was over 100 patriots in here, but I don't even think there was that many people in here. I don't think we have over 100 people in here because we count people as they come in the door, and we don't let that many people in here. So we were open that day. That day, if the time was off, if we get violated for that day, I totally understand. But the other 2 days, I have the first one was a morning, and we were not even open. So they knocked on the door and I opened the door for them. And then the second time, I don't know what was going on. And then the third time, of course.
Okay. For the time being, does that conclude your comments?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. At this point, and I forgot this, I overlooked this. I'm going to back up, and I apologize to you, Ms. Lehman, and to the board. I should have asked you how you pled. I'm not going to assume anything based on your comments. So on the violation number 37, operating after hours on or around November the 9th, is your plea guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Okay. On or about November 23rd, the alleged violation is operating after hours. Guilty, not guilty?
Not guilty.
And then on number 39, on or about November the 6th, which I believe is the evening of the 5th, late evening of the 5th, patrons observed without a mask, not practicing social distancing. Guilty or not guilty?
I want to plead not guilty to that one also because I feel like with the time being off, I think that we should get a break. And then with this pandemic going on, I mean, we're already facing so many things that we can't even afford to pay what we have going on now. So I think in that case, I plead not guilty too, because just with the time being off, I think that should get considered.
Okay, but so you understand, Ms. Lehman, there is not an alleged violation on number 39 regarding a time. It is only regarding patrons observed without a mask and not practicing social distancing.
I'll plead not guilty.
Okay, very well. So we've already heard commentary to the board, and again, I apologize to all on this call. Open up with questions, and again, we can still decide how we proceed as we move forward. But I'll open it up to the board for questions of Mr. Atkins, Mr. Brown, or Ms. Lehman.
I just have questions about 37. I guess we can just break it down. 37, is that accurate that she received a warning and was not violated on that night?
Would that be a question directed to Mr. Brown or the permit holder?
Well, that would be to whoever was inspecting.
In this case, Mr. Brown, would that be you? Mr. Brown, we can't hear you if you're speaking.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Here we can now.
There's background noise. I'm not sure. I'm sure if I heard the question correctly.
So, Mr. Armour, will you restate that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'm on number 37 on that first violation. Was someone actually cited that evening, or was she given a warning by the police or the health inspector? I'm not sure who showed up.
Ma'am, I'm on 37. The beer board was not present. The citation is based on the police report. The police report, to the best of my recollection, I do not have connectivity to pull up a copy, and we didn't have the ability to print it in advance. To the best of my recollection, it merely stated that they were open past the ordered closing time. And I apologize for no greater details. We do have the ability at a later time to even identify the officer that completed the report and subpoena them if necessary. However, I do not have, other than the police report, I do not have any evidence contrary to what the witness stated.
Yeah, so I guess I would be really curious about that, right? Because and I guess I have a couple of curiosities, and this is just commentary. I don't know who this goes to. One of those being, she stated that she was open for cleaning or what have you for the staff. When we look at open after hours, are we saying that no one is allowed to be in the building, even the staff and the owners? Because to me, technically, that's not operating or open. That's cleaning or what. So that's one kind of question. And then the other one is, if she was given a warning, I would really be interested in understanding, why she was given a warning, or if she received a warning, not why she received one, but if she received one, then it wouldn't be a violation.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. And I also, it is my understanding that the closing time is in reference to custom, even to November, and that it has staff. The staff are allowed to lock themselves in, not allow admittance or presence of lingering patients, and clean up and do the normal things that you do at the close of the business. That's my understanding.
Perfect. So 37 to me seems like either we don't have enough information, or we have the information of it just being staffed in there based on the testimony, and that's not a violation.
And if I may add to that, it's my understanding is that any matter that is forwarded on to us is based upon a citation, and it's not based upon merely a warning. And so it's what we receive is something that's forwarded over to Metro Legal, and then they proceed with that in environmental court. So I'm not personally, I'm not aware that we receive anything that revolves around a warning.
So if we received, I guess my concern in a situation like this is if we received a citation, like in a case like this where, in this case, Mr. Atkins wasn't present, or potentially his staff wasn't there in order for him to at least read the commentary directly from the citation. In this case, Mr. Brown wasn't at this location. I have a citation to review this evening. My concern is it seems like it's a challenge for us to, in this case, let's say, adjudicate this particular matter if the permit holder is saying staff only and we don't have anything in front of us to prove otherwise.
Mr. Chairman, this is Melvin Brown. If I can add that in this particular case of these three, really in behalf of the permit holder, on 11/9 and 11/23, best of my recollection, these requests for citations that were made to the board and granted and then served and then summoned, these were based merely upon Nashville police reports that were obtained with other Metro police reports for violations of the county health director's order, which makes them PCA 68 violations, which makes them a violation of the motor vehicle code. So, to the best of my recollection, 37 and 38 are based merely on Metro police reports that say they were open past closing. And I apologize, I can't read the narrative to you now because I don't have them with me. I don't have access to that in my electronic version right now. So in the beer permit holders behalf, that is the only evidence that I recall is instant reports, official reports from Metro government that just says they were open past closing. That's it.
Okay.
39 different, but 37 and 38, that's all there is.
Okay. Any other questions from the board members for Inspector Brown or for the permit holder?
Now, I do have a question on 39, and this is probably either to Inspector Brown or to Mr. Atkins, because I'm just not as familiar. Because the permit holder mentioned, operating a restaurant bar where people, when they come in, they're drinking, they're doing hookah, they're eating, and so they don't have masks on. Can you help me understand what the standard is there, right? I recognize people are supposed to have a mask on, but I haven't been in restaurants, so I'm not as familiar. But what happens, when they're in a restaurant and they're eating and they're drinking or in hookah? I imagine they don't have a mask on. So how do we or determine that there's not masks on? And then the social distancing piece, just again, because I haven't been inside of a place to understand. They're supposed to be 6 feet apart? What is supposed to happen? Just can you give a little information there?
Okay, this is you, Atkins. I can speak to that. As far as the mask, the way it is, if they are actively eating or drinking, then obviously they don't have to have their masks on. But they can't be up, standing around, mingling, with no mask on holding a drink. So if they're sitting at the table and they're having their meal, or they're having a drink, or they're sitting at the bar and they're sipping a drink and it's properly social distance, then that wouldn't be a violation of the mask order. As far as social distancing too, there's a provision in the order that allows cohorted groups, like a party of 8 right now is the limit. So if you go in a party of 8 and get seated at a table, then you don't have to be, those 8 people don't have to be 6 feet away from each other. They're a group, but their table and their party has to be 6 feet away from the other tables and other parties, if that clears that part up for you.
Thank you. That was very helpful because I wasn't as familiar. I appreciate that.
And while I'm sort of talking, that December 5th evening, somebody may have stated they said they didn't think that was a time, that also was a time violation. They were, as our notes said, they were open at 11:45. That's a time violation that we held submitted to Metro Legal in the court proceeding would be considered a violation as well.
Noted, Mr. Atkins, but that is not in front of us that matter, so we can't take that into consideration, nor should we. Just a reminder to the board, that is not presented to us on this matter, so we can't look at that for a time violation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the board for the permit?
I know we were hearing all of these at one time.
Well,
I don't know how anybody else feels, but I feel 37, 38. I'm challenged by those because we have any additional documentation or anyone to testify as being present. I don't doubt. I'm sure that it did come down from the police department. I also believe, mistakes and errors happen, and I'm not saying that this is one case. I'm just saying you don't have anything to speak to or anyone to speak to about it. So can we take them separately in terms of sustaining or not the violation? I'm sure that's what you might have been doing, but I just
absolutely. We haven't decided on how we're taking them, but that's the avenue you want to take. If you feel you're ready to make a motion on these, again, I would remind you that the permit holder on number 37, number 38, 39, because they have the same permit holder. The plea on all 3 is at this point not guilty. So I would ask, Ms. Jarman, if you are prepared and ready to make a motion, that you do so individually, with that first order being either to sustain or to dismiss, before we take up the next phase of penalty should we sustain the violation. Does that make sense?
So I move for 37 that we dismiss the violation because we don't have anyone to speak to or ask questions to in regards to the violation.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, at the time that discussion is allowed.
Okay, sure. I have a motion to dismiss. Do I have a second?
Second, Will Conway.
I have a motion to dismiss. I have a second. Now we're on discussion. Director, you got a comment?
And I would just make a recommendation to the board that if it's a matter of not having the report before us, that I think based upon the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic and these are, dangerous times as far as the virus goes, and that we're trying to have some accountability in these situations, that I think it would be fair if the board is allowed the extra time to provide the actual report in this case that the board members recommend or are requesting in this case. And I think that would be in line with how the board has ruled in previous cases this evening.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. I mean, we give other people deferrals to get their stuff together. I'm fine with, letting our inspectors and everybody get stuff together too. So I'm fine with getting a deferral. If that's, I think that's what you're asking for, but I would be fine with that.
I'm fine with that as well. I think what is helpful is to have, a person, but I recognize that we may not get that, but it's helpful to be able to, just the same way we're asking questions of the permit holder, I want to ask questions to an officer or to someone as well, particularly because our inspectors were not there.
Right.
And I think that's the most helpful way. We cannot interrogate a piece of paper to defer it. I'm fine to rescind the motion.
Here's my comment on that. I'm not an attorney, nor do I want to be one long enough that I've seen most of these situations. In this case, the beer board staff is bringing the prosecution of this matter. And if the evidence exists and they're not presenting it, then I think the evidence that's presented has to speak for itself. If we defer on behalf of the request of an individual who's been served with an alleged violation, it's upon us to give them the right to defend themselves. In this case, the prosecution beer board has chosen to come forth and has not presented us the evidence. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm just saying it's not in front of us today. And at this point, if we're not given the information to face or make a decision, I think it's upon us as a board to act on the information that's in front of us. Now, again, I'm one of many here, and I am not generally going to vote unless I'm breaking a tie. But that's just where I stand. I'm not saying whether there is guilt or innocence. I'm just saying the information is not in front of us that the accusing party has chosen to move forward with. No offense, we're in an electronic and a digital world. I can't see where there's a lot, and again, Director, I'm not indicting you by any means. It's the world. We get this information electronically. I'm not sure as to why we can't get all the information electronically, like we do the minutes, the agenda, staff recommendations, as well as the director's report prior to the meeting, so that we can have it and see what's being alleged based on time, date, individuals involved, to question those that are commenting as to the facts. So with that, I'll open the floor. Are there any other comments on the motion to dismiss on number 37?
I just think at this point, Mr. Chair, I appreciate you bringing that conversation. I think that's a valid point because the people show up ready to defend themselves, and to ask them to come back another time is also time burdensome as well.
Well, unfortunately, I am an attorney, and it probably would have been more appropriate to ask for the deferral prior to starting the trial. I'm not sure if the motion's been recalled or anything, but my second's still there if it has not.
No, I just said I'm open to it. I'm happy to rescind it if that's what we want to do. But it can still stay.
At this point, I have a motion to dismiss, and I have a second. Unless you're verbally drawing the motion, are we ready to vote on the motion to dismiss? Hearing no comment, I'll entertain your motion on the motion. I'll entertain your vote on the motion to dismiss, and I call your name, Ms. Jarman.
Yay.
Mr. Conway.
Yay.
Mr. Conway, is it a yay or nay? I'm sorry. Mr. Conway, can you repeat that?
Yes. I support. Yay.
Okay. I'm sorry, just cut out a little bit. Mr. Perlin. Mr. Perlin.
Yay.
Holding.
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
That's a yay as well.
5 yeas, no nays. Motion to dismiss passes. Number 38, Ms. Jarman, you had mentioned wanting to take this separately as well. I'm okay with that.
Yes. For
Yeah,
the same
motion
reason,
on number 38, if you would, I'm open.
we dismiss this one for the same reason as 37. We don't have the ability to uh, communicate further about documentation that we don't have.
Ms. Jarman, you're coming out a bit. I'm sorry. Is your motion to dismiss?
Yes, motion to dismiss for 38.
Very well. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second Will Conway.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll hear your vote on the motion to dismiss, and I call your name. Ms. Jarman.
Yay.
Mr. Conway.
Yay.
Mr. Perlin.
Yay.
Ms. Spalding.
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
5 yeas, no nays. Motion to dismiss passes. So, Ms. Schleman, on those two, on number 37, number 38, as you have heard, the board has those citations.
Yes, sir.
So we're on to number 39. So to the board, this is the matter. This is the only matter regarding Nashville Hookah Bar. I'm open to additional commentary. I'm open to a motion. In this case, the next motion that we should hear is to dismiss or sustain the violation if there's no additional discussion or questions from the board of the permit holder or Mr. Atkins or Mr. Brown.
I move that we sustain the violation on number 39.
Joe Perlin, I second it.
I have a motion to sustain. I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will hear your vote on the motion to sustain. Ms. Jarman.
Yay.
Mr. Conway.
Yay.
Mr. Perlin.
Yay.
Ms. Spalding.
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
5 yeas, no nays. Motion to sustain passes. At this point, we'll entertain a motion on penalty. I would ask you to keep in mind we have a precedent set in this case from a prior item on the agenda this evening. So I'd ask you to please keep that in mind. As to me, it's a similar situation, but again, I'm not making the motion, and I don't have a vote unless I need to. Are there any additional questions on this matter from the board for Mr. Atkins, Mr. Brown, or the permit holder, Ms. Schleman? Hearing none, to a motion on penalty. I'm still open.
I'll move for $1,000 civil penalty, 7-day suspension, 30-day probation.
Joe Perlin, I'll second it.
I have a motion for penalty for $1,000 civil penalty, or the option of the permit holder to serve a 7-day suspension followed by 30-day probation. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will entertain your vote on the motion. We'll call your name, Ms. Jarman.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was looking at the notes. I'm sorry. I do have a question about what we just did in the last one. What was the amount? Was it 1,500 or was it 1,000?
So in that particular situation, there were 3
A violation.
Individual violations of the order.
Okay, got it.
Um,
And on this one, we.
Director, correct me if I'm wrong, that was 1,500, 730, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, in this one, the motion, it's the alleged violations in this case are without a mask, not practicing social distancing. For counting, that's 2 versus 3 earlier. In this case, the motion is 1,730.
Perfect. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify really quickly. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Any comments on the motion? Hearing none. Your vote on the motion. Ms. Jarman.
Yay.
Mr. Conway.
Yay.
Mr. Perlin.
Yay.
Bling.
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
5 yeas, no nays, motion passes. Ms. Schleman, what the board just voted on regarding number 39 on the agenda, the violations were sustained, the citation was sustained. The board issued a citation due to those violations in the manner of a $1,000 civil penalty. I believe I'm correct in that you have the next 7 days to decide whether you choose to pay that and continue to operate. Or you may choose to serve a 7-day suspension followed by a 30-day probation, which just means that you stop selling beer for the 7-day suspension period, and you would coordinate with the beer board on that matter. It's not a decision you have to make this evening. Again, the beer board staff will be in contact with you regarding that order. And to that matter, we certainly appreciate you being here this evening to discuss this matter with us.
Yes, I just want to. So everything else was dismissed, and then I just need to pay the $1,000 fine or serve the 7-day suspension. So it's either or, right?
Yes, ma'am, you're correct. 37 and 38, the first 2 violations were dismissed. On number 39, it's either or. You can have the option of paying the $1,000 and continue to operate as normal. Or you can instead of paying the $1,000, you can simply serve the 7-day suspension and coordinate that period and the actions around that suspension with the staff.
Okay, I'm
and they will be in
understood.
contact with you to discuss.
All righty. Thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you for being here tonight. Thanks for hanging in there with us in this a bit of a long meeting.
All right.
Next on the agenda, administrative matters. Mr. Director, your report. You're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you will recall, I sent everyone a copy of the executive director's report, and that had the year-to-date revenue collected for the year. And we had a projection overall of 537,100, and we currently sit at 542,242. So that's a little over $5,000 over our projection, and the fiscal year ends on June 30th of this year. So we have about 4 months left to go to build on that. And you'll notice that we've collected about 67% of our projected application revenue, 93% of our projected privilege tax revenue. And then below that, the year-to-date, I provided different fiscal years, 19 to 20, 18 to 19, and 17 to 18. And I actually provided those through February 28th and 29th for last year for the current collection versus February 23rd for the 2020 through 2021. So you look at our variance there, and we're currently ahead of last year by about $24,500. The year before that by $236,000, and the year before that by $155,600. So we are looking pretty strong, and we're starting to see the number of new applications coming in now. So that's starting to increase. And just before this meeting, I met with the Metro Council COVID-19 committee to basically explain to them how the delivery and curbside permits are working, because they invited different departments to share some of their new plans and legislation from last year that worked well with the community. So they asked us to come and speak about curbside and delivery, and so they were very pleased with the work we've done in that area. But that concludes what I have to provide for the executive director's report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thanks, Director. Any questions from the board? I guess you summed it up well. So my parting comments is, tonight's discussions, I think, were good. It does continue to show that we are still in some challenging times, and our role as a board in Metro is to ensure public safety, to ensure that those permit holders are operating in a manner that that creates that public safety component, that creates good business practices. We aren't here to tell them how to run their businesses on a day-to-day basis, other than to abide by the ordinances, by the laws. At the same time, I think we do still need to be mindful that we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Bars, restaurants, hospitality groups, they are suffering. And I would just ask that we continue, as I believe we showed tonight, that we should be mindful of, that those initial violations, even though they've been out there, people, in my mind, there's no excuse for someone not knowing how to function in this environment, because we've now been doing it for 11 months. People make mistakes, people get caught, they come here, and our hope is to not do it again. I would always like to see us show leniency from a standpoint of someone who may have been trying to push the buck a bit. Let's instead of a smack across the face, let's give them a smack on the hand and keep going. If there's a second or an additional violation at that point, I think that's when we really maybe lean on them a good bit. But in this case, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Mr. Atkins and his group are still doing the job that they've been challenged to do, is to create order out of chaos in this environment. But to that point, and I want to thank everybody's input this evening. And let's just be mindful that we're here to do good work, and we're here to we want to keep the city booming and keep it moving along in these tough times. And we've had a lot of good things come out of this department over the last year. We'll continue to have good things come out of this department. The director and his staff are fantastic. They're doing a job, and they're doing it to the best of their abilities and creating those opportunities. Let's keep doing that. So, Director, to you and your staff, thank you for what you're doing. Mr. Atkins, thanks for being here this evening. Thanks for what you guys are doing. I'll jump off my soapbox and just say thanks. Any other comments from the board? Hearing none, then, without objection to adjournment. I have 7:50, folks. Thanks for sticking in to this rather long meeting. We haven't had one this long in a long time now. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Take care.
Thank you.